Hi everyone, my name is Shrikant Ramani and I'm here to talk about my life as a student in a US university, Michigan State University to be specific. I actually went there with a family member. Actually landed in Chicago first and we drove down to Michigan. My first observation is that everything is huge, everything is big in the US, so I'm sure you're going to feel the same way there. Then when I landed at my university, it didn't feel like a university because typically universities are almost like cities over there. It's not like one standalone building with classrooms and related university rooms and professors that you see. It's just like a city with you got student dorms, you got academic buildings, you got professor living quarters, all those sort of things all spread out, and then you have malls and you have stadiums. So it doesn't feel like you're in an academic place at first. I landed in Chicago, but then I drove to Michigan. I went to Michigan State University, which is in East Lansing. Michigan. Lansing is the capital of Michigan, if you want to find out where that is. So it's a pretty small city. Most of the universities are not built around big cities. They are a bit further away from major cities. So Lansing is about an hour away from Detroit, which is one of the major cities in the US. I landed in fall of 2003, which is fall. It was about end of August, beginning of September. So at that point, the university is just coming to life because everybody's coming back from vacations. In a couple of days, the university is going to be filled from maybe a few thousand to a few tens of thousands of universities. Everybody's going to be busy. All the libraries or any other related university buildings are always active. Usually many busy centers like the library, for example, doesn't close. It's 24/7 open. So when you see all these things, you actually get into the mood of interacting with people who are there just like yourself to study, get a degree, have a career, network around. So it was pretty exciting because when I went there, I didn't know anyone as such, so I had to make new friends. I had to get in touch with organizations, clubs, just to meet people, to get to know how the locals are, as well as a lot of international students. So it's pretty interesting. I wouldn't say it's very hard. In fact, they are more than happy to interact with us, and they're very curious about other cultures and the country you're from, how you live your life from them. So I found them very open-minded and very helpful. So I honestly didn't feel out of place as such, and maybe it was just in the initial couple of days that you kind of get used to their way of living. But once you get into that whole process of figuring out how everything is done there, then it's just another normal day. I stayed in the university dorms, which are huge buildings with hundreds of rooms, and in each room there there can be anywhere between 2 people sharing a room to up to 4 people sharing a room, or some of them have apartments, where it just depends on the number of roommates you have and the number of rooms that apartment has. So I stayed in a dorm attached to a cafeteria, and you have other student related activities that goes on as well, like a study lounge or computer lab, things like that. So it's sort of like a pseudo hotel, if you want to keep it that simple, which is always active. There's someone around who's always awake, even if it's late in the night. So it was pretty very eye-opening for me, and very different from how I grew up with with my academic life. Yeah, to a certain extent, culture shock in the sense of not just interacting with the locals, but also maybe related to food, which is probably a very important culture shock, because obviously you're not going to find the most common things that you might find back home, so you have to adjust to their lifestyle of food and activities that goes on. And since it's a pretty a busy city, especially the university town, there's a lot of student-related activities that goes on. Things like this are probably not, we don't see that unless you're in some major, other similar countries like maybe the UK or Australia. So where I grew up and where I was coming from, this was something that was very, very unique. And secondly, everybody's treated as an adult when you're over the age of 18. So you have the freedom to think how you want and behave how you want, and no one's going to always be advising or suggesting what you need to do, or so everybody finds their own way. And it was very, very it's very different and very interesting to see a place which is filled up with only students and no adults. So it's a very exciting place to be. Another thing related to culture shock was when I say food is you have to get really used to the food that is available over there, because I myself, being a vegetarian, I was, it was difficult in the beginning to find vegetarian food that I was comfortable with. But then over a period of time, you do get to know various places which serves vegetarian food. And a lot of places has a few menu items that cater to your taste. So even though you might be a bit choosy with food, I don't think it's very difficult for you to to select whatever you need and to find what you want. Sure. So the university is not just made for studying, because like I said, the university is almost like a mini city, so it takes care of all sort of activities that you also do besides your academic life. So the university is made up of various clubs for various interesting topics, or your preferences. Various groups are there that you can join for various activities that you might be interested in. There are places where you can meet up with friends and play or sports. The infrastructure is there for that. There is many universities have their own stadiums with teams where a lot of sports events takes place. A lot of people show up over there. And of course there's always the evening life and the nightlife after your schooling is done, where you can hang out. It's where like any other city, watch movies or go to a restaurant, or do other activities that that you would usually do in any other major city. So yeah, it is not just you would usually see that it's just not for studying that you would be you would go there for, but you end up also getting comfortable with a lot of other things that that happens surrounding the campus or the university. Well, I mean, I'm a vegetarian, so I don't know what's the most weirdest thing I can tell you about. But yeah, also the weirdest thing, at least from a vegetarian perspective, is a mock meat, where you would have. So some restaurants have vegetarian meat. So I believe it tastes the same like non-vegetarian, but it's vegetarian. So you would have like duck meat, or then you would have goat meat, and you would have these various non-veg items that taste exactly like what they're supposed to, but they're vegetarian. So for me, it was a very very different and a bit weird in the beginning to kind of taste it, because I felt a bit guilty after that. But yeah, I managed to pass through that phase. So. I did get the opportunity, so yes, I took up whatever opportunity that I got to travel, which is also what I would suggest that you do if you get the chance, because there's not things are not just related to one particular city or a few particular cities in the US. There's a lot of things in a lot of cities, whether it's close by or far away, and a lot of events that keep happening all over. So if you get the opportunity, I think you should definitely try and take that up. So when I was in college, Chicago was the closest city, so I used to go there at least once in about a couple of months. But I think one of my longest trips was we drove down to Florida, which was almost a 24-hour continuous drive, which was, I'd never done that in my life. So it was one of those things to remember, and I don't think I'll ever forget that trip. And besides that, I did get a chance to go to other known cities like New York and Pittsburgh, and I think several other major cities, I would say. But yeah, it didn't. I wish I would have gone back and traveled more frequently. But these were just happening when I got the chance, and there was nothing else to do, so I used to end up traveling. I think the best part is just meeting a lot of people with different backgrounds and from different countries, and just different mindset, because you obviously grew up with one particular type of mindset or set of knowledge, but once you go there you meet so many people from so many backgrounds. I think it just kind of opens your mind up to what are the how the world probably is, or what are the various kind of concepts that people are, and you actually it helps you understand where people come from also, and it kind of gets rid of that narrow-mindedness that you might potentially have if you're not aware of any particular subjects. Just sometimes the pressure gets to you, because again, since everybody's treated as an adult, there's no forceful pressure for you to do anything until you actually realize that things have to be done from the deadline that you have, or the timeline that your classes give you, and you don't realize that until very late, and that pressure just gets to you at that point. And so one advice I usually give to a lot of people who go there is just to keep up with your studies, even though no one is telling you to do that, and not to wait until the very end, because over there everything is spread out in such a way that what you do in the beginning of the semester also affects you at the end of the semester. So you have to be very consistent and not just focus on one particular time where you have to do everything. I think if you get the opportunity, you should definitely take it. I think it's one of those things that you'll always remember for the rest of your life, and it's never going to come back again once you pass through that phase. And you would always wish that you did a lot more if you go back in time. So yes, I think you should definitely take it up.